You're watching World Championship Wreckage. Professional wrestling history the way the fans remember. Brought to you by Rivet City Radio and the World Championship Wreckage YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Today's episode.
Whoa, 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 whoa. It's season 2, baby. We're changing it up. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Wreckage here on World Championship Wreckage's YouTube channel. As always, I am your friendly neighborhood dad hat wearing wrestling fan. Join with me, as always, first, a chef by trade, a mark by choice. You know him, you love him, from Rivet City Radio and Box Bots and Chair Shots, the Will Gray. What's up, buddy?
Again, same as every week, gentlemen. I'm just really glad to be here. When we get into the topic, you never want to have to call these kind of audibles coming into a recording session. But all things considered, good week so far. Enjoying it. Lots of exciting stuff on our front. So glad to be here.
We did call an audible. This is not exactly what we had planned to record, but we'll get into that. But below me, from Cole TV, the big bad teddy bear, XLJ the OG. What's up, buddy?
Oh, it is going good, my friend, my brothers. It's good to see you. I love you boys both dearly. I do wish we were doing this episode tonight under different circumstances, but here we are.
Yep. Well, I have a surprise for you. Carly unfortunately couldn't be on this episode. She's gonna start back next week with us as we cover the history of hardcore wrestling as Will's topic, from the territories all the way up to now GCW and others. But I got a surprise for you. I pulled some strings. I got us a fourth chair for this very special episode. You know him. You love him. Husky Rhodes, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's go!
Hello, everybody.
God,
as
dude,
I miss that beautiful face.
As you can see by my tag, yes, I am alive, folks.
Good to see you, buddy.
I am now Fat Jesus. It was great to see you too, XLJ. Will got to hang out with Will on Sunday. Watched most of the second half of All In and did botch spots with him on Sunday.
I just dropped that episode today, man. It was so good to see you, bro.
It was amazing. It was fun. It was a
great
great show.
Multiple shows in 1 week, Husky. You better watch out. We're gonna start booking you again, bro.
Yeah. I don't know if our screens can handle that hair.
I've been joking with people saying this is what it's looked like when you give up.
No, brother, that's ratings. That's ratings. Them females from Wrestle Talk, they've been clamoring for Husky Rhodes. They're like, where is Husky at? And I'm gonna tell you this, brother. Your presence on the screen, I guarantee you right now, is making several females out there a little on the moist side. I'm just saying.
Oh my god,
myself included.
Critically.
Anyways,
hey, I appreciate it.
Well, in honor of Husky being here, I must do this. I'm sorry.
What is this? Circus peanuts!
No hair on that boy.
No, you're just growing what I can't. So that's what's happening.
Hey, this is the last ride with this. I'm just letting you know now.
Man, I used to have hair down like my shoulders. Man, I don't.
Oh, dude, I was full Claudio from Coheed and Gambria with red hair.
I believe it. I believe it.
It sucked. I don't know why I'm doing this.
Well, as much fun as we're having here, we're still gonna have some fun. But we made an audible. Unfortunately, yesterday the wrestling world it had a big loss. One of the greatest big men to ever step through the ropes, don a pair of tights and boots. Sid Justice, Sid Vicious, Sycho Sid, whatever you want to call him, passed away yesterday. And we felt like we should, get together. We did it last year, unfortunately, around the same time for both Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt. So we felt like we definitely wanted to, share our memories, talk a little bit about Sid. Definitely sad. It was, for me, it was weird because he was just at the gathering here in Charlotte not even a month ago. Like I saw him, and yeah, so it was a little weird seeing that news headline yesterday, but XLJ is gonna lead us on this just because at the time of this recording it is 10:16 p.m. Eastern time, and I've been up since 4:15 a.m. So XLJ, I'm passing it to you.
Hey, I'm glad to do it, buddy, especially for such a tremendous performer that was Sid Vicious, Sycho Sid, the late great Sid Udy. And it, like I said at the beginning of this, I'm glad we're doing this episode, but I definitely wish it was under different circumstances because I think Sid is one of those wrestlers who just never truly got his flowers like he should have. I mean, this man, if you look at the record and everything that Sid has done in the world of professional wrestling, very few can say they did what Sid did during his career. A multiple-time champion, both in WCW and the WWF.
It's true.
He main evented not one, but 2 WrestleManias. Main evented a Starrcade. Not a whole lot of guys can say that.
Member of the Four Horsemen.
Member of the Four Horsemen. Thank you, Husky. Yeah, I mean, there is a significant amount that Sid did in his career. And I kind of want to start off with you gentlemen with this. When I say the name Sid, what is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Sycho Sid, Sid Vicious?
Promos.
Now, I find that's interesting. Like, do you feel like you were enamored with his promos? Because a lot of people tend to, unfortunately, gravitate towards a couple of the flubs he had on live television, which I think is completely unfair because as a child, that man scared the shit out of me.
I mean, he's huge. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's massive. I mean, for me, the promos, it's very old school like that. You really I'm just yelling at the camera, like at the same level, but then he would bring it in closer to the camera. And
very soft. Yeah.
And end it with the whole, like, I'm the master and the ruler of the world and the universe. And it changed throughout his time and everything. But, like, if you've seen one Sid promo, you've seen all of Sid's promos for the most part. But it was like, when I see that, it's that. And then for some reason, I think of the hair and the vest. Like,
nobody looked like that.
No.
Ever. He was a fucking freak.
I have a weird statement. And it's probably going to be one of the pictures I use on the thumbnail for this. It's younger Sid. So he's he was always big, but he's broad. He's like this and everything. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, that is that generation's Brock Lesnar.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Like,
the
early 90s Sid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that is even like, I was like, if you cut that hair, I'm like, that's Brock Lesnar.
I mean, he is the only man that could make a fest and assless chaps intimidating as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, look, this is where I hot tag in on this because all chaps are assless, boys.
That's a valid point, but never did you really ever cower in fear of a man coming at you in chaps?
I don't know if I should be scared or have an erection, but about Sid, when I think about Sid, I think about a power bomb.
Yeah.
Because this man is dropping people on their heads long before Kevin Nash started using the jackknife.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And
he
choke
was one
slam.
of
He
the,
was using choke slams
he
too.
was also doing a
Mhm.
choke slam. But the powerbomb specifically, he was one of those first dudes that made it look like a crushing finisher. And I'm going to say this, but not in the same way. Like at one point, they made it illegal, the same way they did with Kevin Nash and the same way they did with the Powell driver for Jerry Lawler. Like his move was so powerful and dangerous that they made it illegal. So for me, that's the first thing that I think of is that this dude was one of those convincing wrestlers that made me think he could just yoink you up out of your seat and drop you on your head if he wanted to. He was convincingly big and scary and menacing, and that's what I think of when I think of him.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. I was thinking about this as we were heading into this episode. He's one of the first guys I remember using the powerbomb. I don't know if he created it, but I feel like, like you said, Will, he is one of the first guys that put that move on the map. That's for damn sure. You remember when he would do it, and he wouldn't just do the pickup and throw him down. He would fucking whirlwind him around like a child, essentially. And I mean, it was just the most amazing thing you'd ever see on television.
Before we recorded this, I watched a compilation of Sid's power bombs from like 1990 to 2000. And it started out, he was doing it like a Jamie Noble did in like Ring of Honor, where he would like drop to his knees when he did it. And then about 94 is when he just started saying, you know what? I'm saving my knees and you're going for a ride.
Yep.
And he was killing people with that. The best thing he ever did, ECW in 1999, when the Dudleys came out and did a promo, and Sid comes out and just destroys the Dudley Boys single-handedly.
And then the crowd goes crazy, and then he turns on Spike, and the crowd goes even more crazy because people were like, they hated Spike because this was after Spike turned on them.
Right.
So he went out there and wrecked the Dudley Boys. So the crowd just popped because it was Sid wrecking the Dudley Boys. But then when he also turned on Spike, who was the heel in the situation, they were like, he's just here to fuck shit up, guys.
Chanting one more time every time he hit a power bomb. And he's like, all right.
I watched I put it in one of the group chats. What I will call if you want to see one of the most rushed matches ever, it was Super Brawl 2000, Sid versus Jeff Jarrett versus Scott Hall in a triple threat match. Super rushed. I mean, it was like they were like, gotta go home. Like from the entrances is what it felt like. But he gets Scott Hall up in that powerbomb and gets some air. And when Scott lands, he just looks like he's just like, and I have no back now. It is broken.
That was in that compilation. I was like, oh.
Scott got some air.
The Shawn Michaels powerbomb, I think it's 95 or 96, where he looks like he breaks Shawn.
You could tell on some of those, like, okay, he's cool with him. He was easy with him.
It's like that Yoko with the bonsai drop.
100%. Yeah. It's like you could tell which one of the boys he respected and which like job guy was like gonna have 4 broken ribs.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and we got to talk about he replaced Diesel. He did replace Diesel.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
For Shawn.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep. That guy in 95. You know, one of my earliest memories of it with Sid is I think back to it was an episode of the I don't know, NWA, and where him and Dan Spivey as the Skyscrapers, they just destroy and I forget who they were going against, but it was like there was receipt after. I mean, they just beat the holy shit out of these guys. It was like, why would you want to piss those two guys off? Like,
I think it was some dude no-selling Sid.
Yeah, that's what. Like, why would you want to no-sell him?
Beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, it's just like, what are you thinking here? So,
wasn't it the Spivey injury in Memphis that led to Mean Mark Calloway getting the call up there to join the Skyscrapers, which led to his WCW call up?
Mhm.
So
well,
like,
I just reverse it because I think it was actually Sid that got hurt.
was it Sid that got hurt? I
'cause
couldn't
Sid
remember.
got
I
hurt
knew
in
it
the
was one of the
matchup with
skyscrapers.
the with the Steiners. He suffered. Get this, he suffered a broken rib and a punctured lung, and still kept going against the Steiner brothers.
Could you imagine finishing a match and just being like, "Hey, brother, take it easy. I've got a fucked up lung. I'm spitting up blood here." Like what?
Like
No
you should be in
suplexes,
the
brother.
ER.
I can't breathe.
It's nuts, yeah. But what I find fascinating about Sid, when I was doing some research here, getting ready for this, is like his introduction into the business. He actually got introduced in the business by the Poffo brothers. So Randy Savage and Lanny Poffo are actually who got him into the business. He was trained by Tojo Yamamoto, who was like a heel way back in the day. Started off in Continental Championship Wrestling, as his first real gimmick was Lord Humongous, which if you watch The Road Warrior, I fucking love that movie. So, Humongous was like my favorite character in that movie. So it was just like, holy shit, Lord Humongous has come to life. This is badass. But it's crazy, man. Like if you looking back on Sid, like in his early days of all the places he worked, I mean, worked in Continental, worked in New Japan, actually challenged Tatsumi Fujinami for the IWGP Championship back in the 80s, believe it or not. Also worked in World Class Championship Wrestling. And of course, his first run there in the NWA, and what better thing to put him with his partnership with Dan Spivey, which I think that helped him tremendously, working with a guy like Dan Spivey. And those Skyscrapers team, that was a badass team, dude. Like, I loved watching those guys. And you mentioned it earlier, Husky. Then he becomes a part of the Four Horsemen towards the end of his first run there in WCW, which it was kind of weird how like they treated that, because it was like, of course Flair was the leader, right? But it got to a point where like Sid was so over, it was like, well, we're gonna have Sid go up against Sting, and it's just like then Flair kind of gets put off to the side, and it's just like, wow, that's kind of didn't really see that coming, but
it was another case like we talked about when we did a Vader episode and everything. Sting with a big man was perfect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Those are some of my favorite Sting matches, and I've been very candid with two of my dearest friends in the wrestling world, Dad Hat and Nate Slater, because they're both Sting guys. And for me, it's just like, that's just not my flavor of Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? I was a Macho Man fan. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that was what I liked. And which is ironic was because I watched a lot of WCW. I just was never a big Sting guy. You know what I mean? It just wasn't mine. I don't put him on. He's not on my Mount Rushmore. Honestly, he's not even in my top 10. Like,
we're not all perfect. Yeah. Will shows it.
But not
Dad Hat
everybody
has
is
tears right now, Will.
I mean,
But
he's my number one with a bullet, but I get it.
You've upset my dogs. Anyways.
Everybody's, by the way, I've been fired. Husky is now the Husky's back on WC. I just feel like Sting's best matches outside of the Cactus Jack feud were always against big men. It was always a Vader. It was always a Sid. It was always, even to say somebody like a Kevin Nash or somebody like that. Anybody that can make Sting look small and make him seem like the underdog is what it's impressive, because everybody he fought that was his size or smaller, he manhandled. So it was always that David and Goliath fighting from underneath that made me like Sting. So there it is. I said something good about it for you, Dad.
Minus the Russo booking, the Abyss stuff was good too.
Yeah.
Put it on the records. So we go from his first run there to the NWA. He shows up into the WWF in 1991 as Sid Justice. And I don't know, like the Sid Justice character. Only cool thing I really liked about Sid Justice is I thought he had a fucking badass theme, like that guitar riff and stuff. I loved his entrance music in that era, but the Sid Justice thing wasn't really working. But then when they turned him you saw the first early part of like Sycho Sid come out, and it was like, oh, okay.
I love the Sycho Sid with the like, like the Psycho,
the Norman Bates.
Oh yeah,
music.
Yeah, and then they put him like in a big, like as a main event guy there in '92. He's one of the last 3 participants in the '92 Rumble. Matter of fact, the second to last to be eliminated before Ric Flair won that. And then, of course, going into WrestleMania 8, which is in Husky and I's backyard in Indianapolis. We got the Sid Hulk Hogan main event matchup at WrestleMania 8, which a lot of people really at the time, of course, was like, okay, this is totally going to be Flair against Hogan. Yeah. Obviously, we didn't get that. But I just remember as a kid, the build up to that and the promos and like Sid, Sid was such a badass. And at this point, too, 8-year-old XLJ is like, I'm on board with fuck Hulk Hogan, as we've said many times here before. So I'm just like, yes, end his career. Do it, Sid. And I just remember Sid like going off on like Mean Gene, I think one time in a promo was just like, I don't give a damn what you have to say about Hulk Hogan. I curse you. And I was just like, fuck yeah, let's go. Kick his fucking ass at WrestleMania. Fuck yeah. I was so hyped. I was so hyped for WrestleMania.
I just saw an interview with Sid, and he talks about that Rumble and being one of the ones at the end, and about how like he gets to the back and Hogan is throwing like a tantrum like a 3-year-old would do because the crowd was cheering that Hogan got eliminated and was booing when Hogan pulled out Sid. And because of his little tantrum, that's when Sid went to Vince and said, I'm leaving. I'm not going to work with somebody like that. And Vince was just like, can you just get through WrestleMania? And Sid did it. And
yeah, his first run there in the WWF, it was interesting, to say the least. Because I mean, after that, he was supposed to work a program with the Ultimate Warrior, and there were some disagreements there as well, and thus he just ended
those promos together.
Oh my god!
Yeah, and thus he ended up leaving the WWF there, and then after that, he pretty much kind of like stayed low for a little while. Mm-hmm. One thing we haven't talked about here yet on the show, is like some of Sid's extracurricular activities. One of the things is he was a great softball player, played the crap out of softball. Like he actually almost, in my research looking this up, he almost like went on to become a professional softball player, believe it or not, after that run in the WWF. However, 1993 rolls around and he returns back to World Championship Wrestling. They bring him back in as this badass that he is. They team him up with Vader. The Masters of the Power Bombs formed. It's like just badass stuff they're doing. And then, believe it or not, they were actually going to turn Sid babyface and put the title on him and feud him with Vader. But then there's another infamous incident I think we got to just touch on, and I think this really clouded his career a lot. It was that famous incident in 1993 that took place overseas in UK tour, where he got in the altercation with Arn Anderson. Which, what was I think there was like 20 stab wounds for Arn Anderson, and he suffered 4. It was just like they were drunk, they got in a fight. It was the boys being the boys. They're on tour. They're over in a different country. I mean, shit happens.
Boys being boys and stabbing.
Boys stabbing each other, Shit, it happens.
6'9", 300-pound man with a pair of scissors.
Could you imagine that? A Sid coming at you with a pair of scissors and the badass that Arn Anderson
I'm not getting out of that. That man's going to kill me.
Yeah, that's like, well, I guess I'm fucked.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to think. And I mean, that really, I think that really is, like I say, that's a black cloud over his career, unfortunately. And that led to his release from WCW. And then this time frame, he works independence, primarily working in the USWA, where he has a great run there. And then, of course, back to the WWF, where I think a lot of us remember him the most, from 95. And you guys mentioned it, coming in as the replacement as the bodyguard for Diesel. Because at the time, Diesel was the WWF champion. Shawn had won the Rumble. So it's like he needs a bodyguard. I want to ask your guys' thoughts. When they brought Sid in as Shawn Michaels' bodyguard, did you think that was like he was more menacing than Diesel? Or did you think it was kind of like, okay, they just got him another big guy? What were your thoughts when Sid came in as Shawn's bodyguard?
I'd say more menacing because Sid's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just... You don't know when he's you don't know when he's going to go off. As where Diesel was just like cool the whole time. Like never really like
he's there. He's there to protect them from the chicks, right? Well, Sid's there to fuck shit up. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it just,
Sid'll burn the building down. Kevin Nash is going to steal your girl.
yeah, 100%.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. I mean, Kevin Nash was a character with Shawn Michaels. Sid came across as a bodyguard for Shawn Michaels.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all Kevin Nash did was this.
Yeah, just play with his glove.
Yeah.
But it was a cool glove. But yeah, you're right.
Very true.
Sorry, couldn't resist.
Very true.
So yeah, I remember this also too. So you get to WrestleMania 11, they have that incredible main event matchup, Shawn against Diesel for the WWF title. And I'll never forget, to me as a kid, this was one of the very first, you know, we always talk about the Raw after Mania. This is the first Raw after Mania I ever remember where it was actually something significant happened. Because the night after Raw on Mania at WrestleMania 11 in 1995, Sid turned on Shawn Michaels and powerbombed him. I think it was a total of 5 times. And my God, the way they called this on commentary and they treat it, you would have thought somebody came in and murdered Shawn Michaels. Like, this is the end of his career. He's done. He's over. How dare Sycho Sid does something like this? And of course, you get the big Shawn Michaels babyface turn from this, and then you go into a rivalry where Sid's going up against Diesel. And of course, Sid joins up with the $1 Million Corporation. Which I enjoyed. I enjoyed that run, honestly, with Sid with the $1 Million Corporation. And me as a kid, I guess because it was like, you know, like 10-year-old me was just like, oh, these big 7-foot monsters is going at it for the WWF title. I enjoyed the rivalry with Sid and Diesel. What do you guys think of that? Did you think like Nash and Sid had good chemistry together? Because I feel like they did.
It was one of those instances where not all matches with 2 big men always work very well. I feel like they did together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Will?
I'm not a big fan of Kevin Nash's in-ring work in general. I mean, I think his work as Diesel is my favorite of the work he did.
Agreed.
His character work in the NWO is my favorite character work he did. I think here, though, I said this about a couple guys recently in modern wrestling, that they need to know how to work like a big man. And when I say that, I talk about guys from this era. I'm talking about Sid. I'm talking about Kevin Nash, who learned how to work like guys over 7 feet tall because they got to watch people like Andre the Giant work and Big John Studd and some of these guys who were giants. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So Sid and Nash were almost that last era of giants before I'll call it the sports entertainment era took over. You know what I mean? They were the last of the territory giants in a lot of ways. And I feel like you saw that in how they worked. Even if you don't like that style of big man wrestling, like that's what they were at this point. That was kind of the end of the territory giants with these guys.
That's a great way of putting it. I 100% agree with everything you just said there, Will. I feel like both him and Nash, like they knew how to work as a big man. And I think that's another thing, and we'll talk about it here for, I'm sure, like Sid's legacy is like one of the great big men of all time. And I think he's on that. I think he's on that Mount Rushmore. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
So from there, Sid gets injured, but comes back to the WWF in 1996, mid 96, and comes back as a babyface. And they build him up to where I remember little XLJ was actually here in person to see Sid become the #1 contender for Shawn Michaels' WWF title as he beat Big Fan Vader at In Your House Buried Alive, my first wrestling show I ever actually attended.
Oh, beautiful.
Was that show. So, and I was there to see.
Mm-hmm.
It blows my mind that you have that kind of a memory now.
Oh, bro. It's like, I remember it like it was yesterday. Like it was one of my fondest memories as a kid, man. Like Undertaker sticking his head out of the fucking grave, man, and lightning going off in Market Square Arena. Oh man.
Okay, that's a good first show. I take that back. I could see why you remember that. Because my first wrestling show was a USWA house show in like the bumfuck VFW hall in nowhere Nashville. Like so that means
I hate you both for y'all. Y'all's were both better than mine. Mine was the Kennel from Hell match.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, mine was just the WCW house show. It was a Great American Bash tour.
Yeah, but you got to see Sting against Vader too. Wasn't Sting against Vader in that? Yeah,
Sting and Vader was the main event.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I think at this time we get to the end of '96, and this is easily, you could say, probably Sid's greatest run as he goes into Survivor Series '96 in Madison Square Garden.
That entrance.
Yes, that entrance. And what I love about this too, it's at the Garden.
He's so over. Like that crowd.
And he's not supposed to be. He's not supposed to be. Sean's the babyface, but this is one of the first times I can remember as a kid watching a show on TV and seeing like, holy shit, the crowd's really like flip-flopping, you know? Like I was not expecting that as a little 10-year-old XLJ, man. But they were so into Sid. I mean, if you look back at this matchup with Shawn Michaels, y'all remember the finish of it? Like he literally takes a camera and hits a 65-year-old Jose Lothario in the chest, and then he hits Shawn Michaels with the fucking camera. What's the crowd do? They're like cheering and like, hell yeah, get him, Sid. I mean, it's just like
it is New York City.
It is. Yes, it is New York City. It's the Garden. But think about that. Think of how amazing of a moment that had to been for him, man. Because I don't think anybody going into that matchup, and I know this is hard to place yourself in that time frame, but the Shawn Michaels run, I was like, shit, they're not going to make him drop the title anytime soon. And it's like, fuck, Sid just comes in and beats him for the belt. It was crazy. Didn't see it coming. It was like, it was shocking. I remember watching that on pay-per-view, just thinking like, holy shit, this is wow. It's like, okay, here we are. And
so him
Sid in the main event.
Winning the title. The Winged Eagle is not my favorite WWF belt. Like I get a lot of hate for that. When I see that belt, yes, it's Hogan had it a lot and everything. But to me, when I see that belt, that is Brett's belt. To me, that's what I think with that. But Sid, like, he made that belt look good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you put the belt around him, it just looked natural. It's like
it was very convincing.
Yeah,
he looked like a champion.
Mm-hmm.
He could wear the belt like a belt, and I think that's crucial for looking like a menacing heavyweight world's champion, world's heavy. Harley Race wore it like a belt. You know what I mean? Sid wears it like a belt.
Right.
I have to interject for a second. Al is working late. She sent me a text instead of just speaking up to avoid interrupting us. Her first wrestling show, Thompson Bowling Arena, SmackDown, September 2021. It was she got ringside seats for us. She came out to Knoxville to take me. Yeah. That was right after. Yeah, that was her very first live show. It was right after Big E cashed in his Money in the Bank win that year. And the world's title and the Universal title were both on SmackDown for those few weeks.
Oh, yeah.
So we got to see that. That was fun.
That's pretty dope.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But here you have Sid in the main event scene. You have him feuding with like the top guys like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Vader.
Him and Bret were great.
Him and Bret had great matches. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. They didn't have a whole ton of matches. I don't recall, but I mean that era they had a couple, and they were always good. I loved when Sid got in there with Bret Hart, man. But then we go to WrestleMania 13, and he works the Undertaker, and once again, Sid is in another WrestleMania main event here. And he's going up against, Mr., the WrestleMania, the guy from WrestleMania. And he's a part of the infamous streak here. And of course, this is early on in Taker's career. But still, like, I can remember seeing this on pay-per-view as well as a kid. This was, and actually, true story, this was the first WrestleMania I ever watched on pay-per-view live, was WrestleMania 13. And I can remember going into this one and like the whole stuff going on with Bret Hart. And I was a Bret Hart guy, as you all know. And just Bret turning into this heel. And I remember at the beginning of that matchup where Bret comes out and, he's pretty much challenging the winner or whatever. And then Sid more or less is like, calls him like a little crybaby bitch. I don't think he says that exactly, but it's just like, and then they beat the shit out of Bret Hart and fucking Chicago goes crazy. They love it. But I remember that matchup against Taker, man. And that was another one. Like, I don't, once again, I just don't think Sid gets nearly enough credit for how good he was. I loved it when he wrestled Taker. I thought that was, it wasn't a classic. It wasn't like a, fucking like, Brett and Shawn or anything like that, but it was still a good, solid big man matchup. And of course, later on that year, he ends up leaving the WWF, and then we don't see Sid for a long time until, like Husky mentioned this earlier, and I want to talk about this with you guys. Let's talk about Sid's ECW run. Because Sid in ECW, when he came in, I was just like, let's fucking go. They put him with Judge Jeff Jones. Yeah. I mean, I don't think Jeff Jones ever got as big of a pop as when he would come out with the gurney and like the crowd was just like, oh shit.
The minute you see that robe, people are like, oh shit. Someone's about to die.
And man, didn't need any music. Just comes out and just beats the fuck out of whoever.
And just yelling the most random shit as he's walking the ring. There ain't nobody fucking man enough. Ain't nobody fucking bad enough. And he's just punching the shit out of fans as he's walking to the ring.
Yeah.
Unhinged. I loved it.
I agree. His run in ECW was so good. Short-lived, but it was so good. And that's another thing. I don't think people remember that, honestly. They're like, oh shit, Sid worked in ECW. Yes, this actually did happen, folks.
Here's the thing. Sid doesn't even really remember it.
Yeah.
Because he did a shoot and they asked him about ECW and he's just like, there's really nothing really I remember about it. That's how quick he was in and out of that place.
Yeah.
Because he was only there for like 2 months.
Yeah, well, that's what Heyman was best known for at that point, though, man. Yeah. Like, he was taking anybody, and he did it with Dusty. Like, you remember Cody gave him that big heartfelt promo about giving. Heyman was the quintessential example of he would do whatever he could where he thought would put butts in seats. You know what I mean? And he thought Sid, at that point in his career, could still put some butts in his seats, even if it was for a couple months. And we talked about it, the Dudley stuff earlier, when we were talking about the powerbomb, where he just came in, and that was his whole gimmick in ECW, and the fans loved it. Just come in and just wreck everyone.
Like, you remember the early ECW with 911? When 911 would come out and just chokeslam people? This was late ECW's version of 911.
Yep. Exactly.
Let me ask you guys a little trivia here. Do you remember the first guy he attacked in ECW?
Was it John Cronus?
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Can't think of a better guy for him to like go against and bump against than John Cronus, man. Oh man.
He immediately chokeslams him over the top rope through the announce table.
Yep.
Like, it's so sick.
Yep. You're like, yep, here we go. Let's fucking go, man. But I truly think that kind of led him to getting signed back again to WCW in 99.
Which I remember when he came back in 99, I'm just like, what the hell? Like,
where did this guy come from?
That's the thing too with Sid. It's like he has these periods where he left the business and then he comes right back into it, and it's like, he picks up right where he left off, or he didn't lose a step, it's crazy. So you get him in 99. They bring him in originally as part of Team Madness, with, as I like to refer to, midlife crisis Macho Man Randy Savage and WCW.
Gorgeous George, Medusa,
yes,
Molly Holly.
You're on with it. Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect, right, Ed?
Yeah. Can't win them all. So then he goes in from working that to, he goes into later that year into a feud with Goldberg.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you guys, the rivalry he had with Goldberg was actually pretty damn good. Like I enjoyed like all the stuff they were doing. The matches were great. I remember that Halloween Havoc 99 match like it was yesterday. Like Sid bleeding like fucking everywhere. As a matter of fact, I think that match stopped because he bled so much in that damn matchup.
It made Goldberg not look so intimidating. Like this is a force that can stop Goldberg.
Yeah. So, and I mean, they had a great run, and he had a run with the U.S. title at that time frame. Of course, I think once again, people gravitate towards the stupidity because there's that infamous scene where Goldberg crushed his car or whatever. Just the most dramatic, like no.
Streetcar Named Desire like performance.
I just want to fucking if they had drones back then, like fucking the camera would be up here and he'd be like Stella Goldberg.
Exactly.
Fucking car and squashed it. Oh,
it has been in the theme of Botchamania for years, and it pops me every single time.
Yeah.
I love it.
And speaking of that too, I mean, like I say, I think that's the one thing I hate that people associate with him is his Sid did have a lot of botches. I mean, there's the infamous "We're live, pal."
Yeah.
That was Sid. And then there's of course the promo against Nash and Hall, the poor guy, like half the man and half the brain, like.
And it immediately cuts to Scott Hall, who's like scream laughing at him in the ring.
Yes, which the funny thing is Hall and Nash were super tight with Sid. Like they were good.
Yeah, they loved Sid.
Yeah. So then you go to where Sid in 2000 wins the WCW championship, becomes the world champion. But of course, couple times there.
Yeah.
Of course, it's kind of in that weird period though, where it's the Russo era and like,
But with a title like how you mentioned about the Winged Eagle on Sid.
Oh, that big gold looks
gold on Sid looks
with the vest.
Perfect. Yeah, with the vest, it's perfect.
Yep.
That is when I picture Sid as world champion, I picture him with big gold.
Yeah.
Because that's my favorite belt of all time.
Yeah, same.
Big gold. Respectable.
Over there.
I am a Winged Eagle fan myself. I got a Winged Eagle around here, but anyways, I digress. But so Sid goes at this point. He's won the world title. I mean, he's done pretty much about everything you can do. Now we get to 2001 though. And we got to talk about this. Like, suffers easily one of the most gruesome injuries I have ever seen in pro wrestling.
I was in the building for it.
And I was going to say, Husky, you were there for it, weren't you? Yeah, because that was at WCW Sin at the Sycho Fieldhouse in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, like, I had a buddy going to that show, and he wanted me to go with him. I forget. I blew him off or something. And, and that shit happened. Husky, being there to see that live, like, what do you remember? What do you recall when that moment happens and Sid jumps off the rope and the leg goes like it does? I mean, could you see it from your vantage point?
Yes.
What was your first thoughts?
I threw up on the floor, and my dad and I immediately left.
Fair enough.
Because he doesn't like that shit either. Or he didn't like that shit either. He was just like, come on, boy, let's get the fuck out of here. And we left. And I was just like, I'm like covered in fucking puke. I'm like, oh God.
Husky looks back in moments of reflection, being like, where did trauma begin?
Shitty little 14-year-old me.
Sid.
just thrown up all over myself. Just like, oh God.
It's like, oh, what did you do, son? Your teenage son? Were you out drinking? Were you out doing bad things?
WCW.
Like, no, I attended a WCW show in 2001. That's what
I watched
made me
a giant
vomit.
man break his leg. We were 6 rows from the fucking ring.
Holy shit, you were that close. Oh,
we were
God.
6 rows from the ring.
Probably hear it.
God.
You could just hear the ring. You couldn't hear the leg break. Thank God.
Like, do you remember what the crowd was like when that happened? Or like
freaking the fuck out. They were like, oh.
Yeah.
There was a family like 2 rows back, and the dad goes, oh hell no. I was, I still think about that to this day.
That's crazy. I can't even imagine. Like, was that like your first like WCW pay per view? But probably one of the only WCW pay per views you ever went to, right?
Yeah, it's the only WCW pay per view I ever went to.
Yep.
I went to a few nitros and stuff.
Yeah,
but not any pay per views other than poor Sid snapping his leg. And the thing is, I don't remember anything else from that show.
Right. Yeah, I don't think anybody else does either. Like, the thing is, you know what I remember about it too, because like at this point, and this was kind of another reason I didn't go to the show. I really wasn't in WCW at the time. I was more watching WWF. I was watching Raw.
Right.
And I can remember, you remember guys back in the day when WCW tried to get like a foot up on WWF and they would start Nitro an hour earlier before Raw. So I remember I always turn in for the first hour because, I got nothing else to do, right?
Yeah.
And I remember the next night they're talking about that. And like Tony Schiavone, because I didn't know what the fuck was going on at the time. Tony Schiavone talks about the injury. And it's like, oh, it's brutal. Like, you don't want to see it or whatever. Yet they replayed the goddamn thing 30 fucking times. It's just like, Jesus. Then they go in and zoom in and they circle like the leg. Here you see where it's plain as fucking day. I can see the man broke his fucking leg. I mean, I don't need play-by-play on this, for Christ's sake. Like,
Stevie Wonder could have seen that man broke his leg.
I mean, these are
come the fuck on, dude.
Yeah.
Really?
It's like, this is horrible. We don't want to show this, but here you go. It's like, fuck you guys. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, come on, man. But yeah, that is easily the most gruesome injury I can think of in wrestling. Is that infamous leg break. And the thing is, like, pretty much you would think his career would be done and over with. And matter of fact, doctors even told him, like, you're not even going to be able to run again. You're not going to be able to you're going to have to walk with a cane the rest of your life. But God bless Sid Eudy, the man, because he proved all of them wrong. I mean, it took the man 3 years worth of rehab to truly recover, and he would return back to a wrestling ring after that. Of course, at this point, though, you have the WWF is the only show in town. But Sid would make an appearance on Monday Night Raw all the way back on June 25th of 2012. Where he would go up against one Heath Slater as part of that storyline of the Legends coming back and beat the shit out of Heath Slater.
And he still looked good.
He still looked good. He looked great. Yeah. And they brought him in for that Raw. What was it? Raw 1000 or whatever.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, though, I think the one thing you got to give credit to Sid, as I was looking into this, like, I mean, one thing that us fans didn't really know, but what I've from seeing in research and hearing other people say, he was a great family man.
Yeah.
I mean, he was married to his wife for up until he passed here recently, and I mean they got married in the early 80s. So had two amazing children. One of them was actually on. I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but one of his kids was actually on that Big Brother show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Sid actually made an appearance on there too, as well.
Oh, wow.
I don't
Do you
know
remember when or how far back?
Because I've watched a bunch of them.
Yeah, it was. Let me see, because it was in like the mid 2000s, I think, is what I was reading on it. Because I remember too, my parents watched that show and they'd be like, "Hey, who's this wrestler?" And they describe him and stuff, and I'm like, "Sid."
Was it Luchasaurus's season?
Luchasaurus was on there. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it makes him. Yeah, and he's a. Sorry, Luchasaurus, if you see this, he gets literally owned by this girl because he's like puppy dog eyes the entire season. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I'll be damned.
Yeah.
He was, to answer your question, Will, he was on Big Brother 14. His son Frank was a contestant on there.
Do you remember Frank?
I'm gonna have to go watch that season now.
Yeah, that makes me want to go back and see, because I definitely don't remember Sid. That's for sure.
Yeah. he was on there, believe it or not. But he was also, we mentioned
season, I think.
He was also a great softball player as well. Like, he was a big advocate for like his kids, his grandkids. Like, I mean, just the cool thing is, in seeing this, it looks like after wrestling stuff, Sid had a good life, and I mean that's the most important thing at the end of the day. I mean, he gave so much to us wrestling fans, and for him to have a a good life after the world of pro wrestling. I think that's pretty awesome.
Mhm.
He was diagnosed with CHF back in 2016. Had to have a pacemaker put in. But I didn't know this, guys, until like after they announced his death. But I did not know, like, pretty much Sid he did have cancer. He was diagnosed in April of 21 with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And in looking it up and stuff too, believe it or not, it was linked to him being around or using Roundup. And how crazy is that?
Really?
Yeah. So
Huh.
go figure. But I mean, the thing is, so this man had pretty much cancer from 21, and you mentioned it earlier, Dad Hat. I mean, he was still working, making appearances. He was still working conventions and stuff, meeting with his fans. I mean,
Mhm.
Dad Hat, if you, you got to kind of, I don't know if you met him, but I mean, you got to kind of be around him or see him. Would you have ever guessed that he had cancer?
I mean, he's definitely. I mean, you could tell he had aged. You could tell that like his muscle definition was gone. He, I remember like a year ago seeing a video of him for the first time in a long time, and it was on TikTok. It was like a video of him doing like a signing, and I think I even sent it to like in a group chat. I was just like, "That's Sid," and it didn't even look like him.
Hmm.
It's I mean he definitely definitely height wise was still there, but I mean muscle definition, everything, all that's gone and everything. But I mean, you could kind of see it in the face, but it still was. I mean, you could tell like the age has gotten to you. Your bump card got full. Like your body's done being super physical.
Yeah. And I mean, Will, I know you went through your battle with cancer and how that like wears your body out. Like, I mean, I can't imagine like making like public appearances like he did, like and going through all this.
It's wild to think about because there's always an argument that cancer isn't even an apples and oranges comparison because it's truly so different from person to person. But to me, hearing that anybody is going through any form of chemo and they've got the strength to travel and to make appearances and still do work, even if that work is just showing up and shaking hands and kissing babies, like that still takes it out of you. There were points where I couldn't travel.
Mhm.
So the fact that he was going through it and still traveling and his family kept it under wraps as long as they did, that's impressive. Like, it's tough to keep it. It wasn't something I was super vocal about during the process, but like, it's hard. And for people to not have any idea, that's impressive. And he did a really good job of covering it up, to be completely honest.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I mean, we didn't know up until the day he passed, really.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of looking back to like, not in the same vein of this, but I mean, you think of like a Chadwick Boseman. Never would have guessed that guy.
Mhm.
Like when they announced he's passed, it was like, no way, and the fact that he did what he did while he was suffering from the brutal disease of cancer. But as we come to a close here tonight, we've looked back on the history here of Sid. I want to get your final thoughts and kind of ask you, at the end of the day, what do you think is going to be the legacy of Sid Vicious?
One of the
Rushmore.
one of the four greatest men over 6'10" to ever wrestle.
Yeah.
Without question, in my opinion. I'm sorry, Husky. I didn't mean to steal your thunder, brother.
No,
I think
no,
we were
you're
thinking
good.
the exact same thing, though.
Pretty much, yeah, absolutely. And I'll throw a tag in: best power bomb in the business.
Yes.
Yeah.
And choke slam.
His
that's
choke
one of the best choke
fantastic.
slams.
He got height with everybody on both moves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you gentlemen say. I do believe he is going to go down as one of the greatest big men of all time. And like I say, it's a shame that we're now kind of truly giving him flowers. I would fully anticipate him to probably be put in the Hall of Fame next year. I mean, he should have already been in it, on all honesty. With the guy, like I say, look at what all that man did in the world of wrestling. A multiple time champion, headlined multiple WrestleManias, Starrcade. Everywhere he went, he dominated. And he truly worked how a big man should work. And he looked like a menacing big man. There was nothing about him that did not look like he would make you crap your pants if you got in the ring with him.
Yep.
And I think the cool thing is too, like, and I think we're going to see more and more of this coming out. Like, I was reading up on from PCO talking about like Sid, his friend, and like all the great things that Sid did for him. I think that's one thing we're going to see a lot more of, is just these great stories coming out of Sid Udy, the man. And he was the man and the master and the ruler of the world. And I'll leave it at that, gentlemen.
Well, folks, again, we called an audible. We thought it was important that we did an episode talking about Sid. I knew we would eventually get to him at some point. It's unfortunate that this is the reason that we did get to him. But it was cool to kind of go back down. You know, like I mean, since I saw the announcement of his passing, like I've watched several matches just in that short period of time and revisited moments with him. But he will be remembered. You know, he is not in the Hall of Fame. I think worthy of being in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if that'll be something within the next year, or if that'll be something, you know, 5, 10 years, 15. Like, there's so many people, and Papa H is righting some wrongs in that realm. We saw that last year, so we don't know, but he should be there. I think he'll get there eventually. So as we move on, before we get into some business, we got to do XLJ. We got to do a Plug-a-Palooza. First off, Husky, I love you to death, man. I appreciate you jumping on.
Too, man. Hey, no problem, man. No problem.
Tell them what you got going on. I know you're doing some music stuff.
Yes, I am doing some music stuff. I have a band by the name of Widow River. We are working on some stuff. We should have an album out. We're aiming for the end of the year. If you like bands like Deftones, Alexis on Fire, Thrice, Turnstile, stuff like that, you'll dig the shit that we're doing. I also make electronic music under the name Dormir. I've been playing around with some stuff. I'm off work for the next couple of weeks, so I'm going to be in the lab working on some shit. So hopefully come out with something new with that too. I will be back around these parts, working on some timing things, but Queen's Court will be coming back. Let me get my schedule figured out. Bree and Mike are already down, so we'll pick up where we left off.
Perfect. XLJ.
Well, once again, we've had another busy week over on Cole TV. Right now, you can catch a replay of what, honest to God, I think is my favorite episode of Colecast. I got to do an episode with Best Gout, and we look at the history of the World Bodybuilding Federation. It is ridiculous, and I will just talk and leave it at this with a little tease. Our good friend Jay does make an appearance on this episode, and I got to tell you guys, out of all the stuff Jay has done, this is by far the best video he has ever done. Like, it is just like it. I don't want to give away too much, but you see a side of Jay that you never thought you would see, and I'll leave it at that.
Did he create his magnum opus?
I believe so, yes. In my humble opinion, yes. Like he was, let's put it this way, he was marking out the board. Like, Best Scout and I watched the video for the first time. It's our live reaction on the show, and we are marking the fuck out. We're like, oh my God. Like,
that's funny.
This is amazing and incredible and scary and erotic all at the same time.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So that episode is up now on Cole TV. Also, B-Roll and I got the privilege of working with our good close friend Cole Radrick as part of his show, The Schmitty, which was a SpongeBob-themed wrestling show. Matter of fact, you'll see we've got a vlog, which is going to be, let's see, when this gets posted, it comes out on Wednesday, so it should be up and available on Cole TV by the time you post this. But but the Smitty, it was pretty cool because for the first time ever, and B-Roll and I going to a show, it's our first time we ever did color commentary on a match.
Oh,
Nice.
awesome.
So that was interesting. Fun little side note here. Also, I wasn't aware that I was the timekeeper as well, as the referee kept telling me to ring the bell, and I'm just calling the action. I'm like, gosh, this match hasn't even started yet. And looking right next to me, oh, there's the fucking bell. Ring, ring. So, yeah.
That's perfect.
Good times. But no, we had an amazing time. And a huge shout out to Cole. He's a good buddy of ours. We love him to death dearly. He's looking great, by the way. I mean, he is looking like he's posting some of these videos of his training. I told him, man, you got some thirst traps going on here. He's looking good, and I'll go ahead and call it now. He is going to be a future GCW World Heavyweight Champion. You heard it here first from me.
It needs to happen.
It's going to happen. He's going to come back healthier, bigger, better than ever, and cash that brass ring in. Anyways, I could talk about Cole Radrick all night.
Keep
but that's some
Indiana
of the
proud, brother.
Damn straight. But that's some of the stuff we got over on Cole TV. And of course, you can catch a replay of Pro Wrestling 60. And you can follow me on all socials, the TikTok, the Instagram, X, all that shit. XLJ the OG.
Will, what about Rivet City Radio and Botch Spots? What's going on?
We've got the same old song and dance. Nerdy news on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We've got our NXT and Bash of Berlin predictions live on Thursday night. Then the big show, Sunday at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, same as always. And right here on WCW. Check the link tree for everything else for all the socials on Facebook, Instagram, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google, all of it.
And don't forget his writing on Last Words on Sports. I'm gonna plug your stuff. But
we'll talk about that then right after we hang up this call.
Okay. Maybe I should say never mind then. Okay. Anyway, you can find me Dad Hat Wrestling everywhere, every social media, World Championship Wreckage everywhere. Next week, we will have the history of hardcore wrestling from the territories all the way up to modern day with GCW. Will's going to be leading that. That was his topic. Since Carly's not with us, I'm going to give her another week to figure out her first topic that she's going to lead. So we'll jump into mine. My next one will be up. And I have been waiting to do this one. As soon as it hit me, I was like, can't wait to do it. So early on, Will and I did an episode where we ranked our top 10 managers. I want to do something similar where each of us is going to rank our top 10 wrestling t-shirts of all time.
Oh,
great idea.
I like that. Okay.
Across all companies, your top 10. So this technically gives you 2 weeks to plan that out and do some research. I'm pretty sure I can let each of you share your own screen. So if you want to have them pulled up, we can show them and stuff like that. So
nice.
I act like I know what I'm doing on this side of the camera. I do not. But yeah, I appreciate Husky and always Will and XLJ. Carla will be back with us starting next week. But we're going to end tonight, as we always do. Wise words from Dusty Rhodes. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, baby, I got one more thing to say. Your gas tank is full. Your dipstick is in. Your windows washed. Y'all come back and see me again.